when we speak about ING's approach to AI, I mean, you're obviously heavily financially regulated. How do you go about implementing a technology such as AI? I can imagine a lot of people have ideas around, want to experiment with it, but you have to work within certain rules and regulations, I'm sure. How do you go about implementing something like that?
And welcome back to another episode of In Check with Fintech. On this episode, we are joined by Bahadir Yilmaz, Chief Analytics Officer at ING. Bahadir began his career at ING in Turkey in 2012, focusing on digital transformation. He later joined ING Analytics, where he established the Intelligent Operations Center to address operational challenges with analytics. In 2021, as Global Head of Tooling and Analytics for Retail COO, he introduced the DG Index and DG60, enhancing digital services for superior customer experiences. Since July 2023, Bahadir has served as Chief Analytics Officer, leading ING's analytics and business intelligence efforts to drive value across business domains globally. Enjoy listening.
Was then from mechanical engineering to ING a logical step for you? Was it something that you always had the ambition to or always planned to?
I studied industrial engineering. Industrial engineering is like more about like organizing, building systems.
Yeah.
And I also did a specialization in statistics operations research. So like my background is like really around complex systems and how machines can support it. Also the mathematics can support it. Banking, was it my first preference? I don't think so, but like it was one of the options.
Yeah,
I preferred it back then. I started working for ING in Turkey. I started in a role where I was in a team that transformed business processes with Lean, Six Sigma type of like techniques, but also with advanced technologies. In my 6.5 years in Turkey, I did many different process optimizations. So like we did a project to optimize the locations of ATMs. What is the best way of like putting the next ATM and where should it be? We used machine learning back then when machine learning basically didn't exist.
So what are the best spots to put an ATM machine?
Yeah, exactly. Like
do you know what the best spot? Like are there certain
there are a lot of
characteristics?
factors. There are a lot of characteristics.
Okay.
So like we took data from a GSM provider where they had the data of people movement in a map of granularity of 30 meters.
Yeah.
So in every 30 meters, like you can get a data which tells you what are the people movements throughout the day. Based on that, you can say like, okay, these are the best locations for our clients. So you optimize that. It was an interesting problem. That was back in 2012. I also did like normal standard process optimizations using different techniques. We did better onboarding. We did better landing. We were the first ones to use like robotics technologies back then in 2014. So I always did something related to business transformation, client experience, and new technologies.
And AI sounds like you're a longer part of that than you are for the last couple of years. It sounds like something that maybe was already there when you started at ING.
It wasn't
to
there.
A certain extent.
It was like there are AI as a term. It was always there.
Yeah.
AI, I think, theoretically means making machines deciding like human. I think that's the broader term. You can have thousands of rules chained to each other, and like you can have an AI system. Back then we were using AI interchangeably with techniques like robotics, but also statistics. Whenever they were a bit more advanced, we were saying this was AI. For the last 2 years, AI is generative AI. So like it's if you use something like ChatGPT in your processes, it's considered AI. So AI is always used, but like it's changing.
But they're two different things, I find, right? AI and Gen AI, they are two different things. Would you agree?
I agree. Yeah, they are.
What would you say are the main differences between the two of them? I mean, I have done some reading up on it. For those who haven't, what would you say are the main differences between AI and Gen AI? What are the considerations, I guess, when implementing one or the other technology?
AI is a very broad term. AI is making machines that decide. And as I said, like there are many techniques for it. Generative AI is a newer technique that is a branch of AI that is able to come up with content that doesn't exist before. And that content can be text, content can be image, that content can be a video. it generates a video that is unique for your question. And here comes the beauty, but also the risks attached to it. Like you have something novel and very specific to your ask, but also that can be wrong, or there can be other considerations around it. So in a nutshell, Gen AI is a subset of AI and a completely specialized track of new technology.
It'd be interesting to maybe talk a bit more about the applicability of both in kind of domains that ING looks at AI, or how you look at it, AI, basically as the chief analytics officer. Maybe the main topic of conversation throughout this podcast will be kind of ING's approach to AI, right? I think, like you said, with recent developments, not just over the last couple of years, but over the last decade, when it comes to AI, when it comes to machine learning, when it comes to Gen AI, if you're not adopting the technology, you're probably missing out. And yeah, obviously a big bank such as ING has to adopt it, especially with the rise of newer fintechs and neobanks. So maybe when we speak about ING's approach to AI, I mean, you're obviously heavily financially regulated. How do you go about implementing a technology such as AI? I can imagine a lot of people have ideas around, want to experiment with it, but you have to work within certain rules and regulations, I'm sure. How do you go about implementing something like that?
AI and models, I'm going to use some of these terms interchangeably. I'm going to explain what they mean. But like you have mathematical models that helps you in deciding. Like you have mathematical models, for example, that decides on, or like helps you in deciding who gets a loan and who doesn't. If you look at financial institutions, all of these are heavily regulated for a very long time. There are certain rules on like how you should build a model, what should be the specs of these models, who should sign off for it, who should audit it, when you should look at the performance of this model, how you should monitor it. Like there's a lot, tremendous governance around it. I think there's knowledge in financial industry on how to build systems using models in a safe manner. And after the financial crisis of 2008, these got also stricter.
Be part of MPE 2025, where the future of merchant payments begins. Build your future at Europe's largest merchant payments event and expect a 3-day conference focused on every angle of merchant payments, from acquiring and open banking to embedded finance and the world of AI and payments. MPE 2025 is your gateway to new opportunities and business success, where you'll learn, network, and showcase your solutions. Get your pass now to be part of the must-attend Merchant Payments Conference of 2025.
There are some regulatory models that you have to absolutely follow certain rules, and like there are some models that management can use at their discretion, but like they still need to be governed. And we have this muscle, so like, we know how to use models in a safe and secure manner. When it comes to generative AI specifically, 2 years ago, of course, like we saw this technology, like all of our employees, stakeholders, managers started playing with ChatGPT itself, and like they said, okay, wow, this is powerful. What does this mean for us? And then we started the dialogue with our board in ING. We analyzed the risks. Actually, there are many new risks that are coming with the introduction of this technology. You're using a service that is coming from a US big tech provider. You're sending a lot of information. You have to make sure that whether they are sensitive or not. You have to make sure you have contractual agreements in place to assess whether the code or like whether the information that is generated by the system is ING's intellectual property, open source, or intellectual property of OpenAI. So lots of new risks were identified. Actually, we identified so many risks that we said, okay, like let's put everything on hold until we have a policy to govern this. And that's what we did previous summer in 2023. We said like we have to keep an inventory of like what is going on, and we have to keep a list of things that is going around, and we have to pause everything at this point because like we cannot cope with this change. We can expose ourselves to big risks that we cannot really manage. From then, we built on some capabilities. We first started with few experiments. We started with experiments which are, hey, can we apply this technology to this problem in a very small case, but at least in a directional way, we can see if it's working or not. These POCs still didn't provide any big financial customer satisfaction benefits to us at this point, but they all proved whether what we are trying to do is feasible and working or not. And then we also kept working on our way of managing these risks. How are we going to address the contractual elements that I mentioned from a legal perspective? How are we going to manage certain biases? How are we going to make sure that like we are not using any risky language in our day-to-day generative AI applications? We also figure out a way to assess those risks.
Can you give an example of how you do that then? Because I understand that you do that, but how do you go about doing that? How do you limit a model that generates its own or develops itself, basically?
Well, we agreed on certain principles in our risk management. We said like we will use a lot of models from vendors and big tech companies. We should never accept their declaration as given. We should always have our own testing and monitoring around it. When we have a use case that is client facing, we have our testing methodology that we developed by ourselves, and like that's big part of like what we are doing. We are only gonna allow it if it passes that test. It's like a penetration test for AI. That's one of the principles. We just stress test the system, and we want to make sure that like it is safe enough. We can never say it's 100%. There's always a risk with generative AI technologies, and like we just want to test the appetite on that one, and we want to see if it's good enough.
And your own model was not Gen AI based, but that was the model that you used previously to experimenting with the Gen AI model?
There are like a lot of applications. Like I will come to that. I will clarify that part. Demystifying it, like summer 2024, we said we see 5 domains where we think generative AI really fits. There are probably other domains where it can work, but like without solving the challenges in these 5, we shouldn't really start experimenting in new domains. Those are our chat channel has a low customer satisfaction score. People don't like talking to chat and to ING mostly because like they cannot get the information as accurate as they want. Generative AI people like. We said, can we have generative AI based chatbot in our chat channel? That's priority number 1. We are trying to build it, and in the Netherlands, we are processing around 15% of our chats via generative AI.
And you get better results now.
And we get better results, better accuracy, but also better client satisfaction. The second domain is know your customer processes. We are, of course, in a regulated industry, we need to be operationally effective and efficient when we are doing anti-money laundering activities. There we see a big opportunity in generative AI's capabilities and what bank needs. There's a good triangle there. There's a document or information about our client. There's a policy that we have to adhere to, and there's a question that we have to answer as ING. Generative AI is good at like bringing some context to that operation. There we would like to scale further. We want to personalize the messages that we are sending to our clients. If we have a new product, we are always sending the same message to our all clients. We are thinking, can we use generative AI to really differentiate the messages that different people are getting so that it's much more understandable by them? This is part of our personalization strategy. Some of our competitors, but also like retail world, they send really personalized messages to promote their products or like to give you additional information. We are a bit inspired by that, and like we want to do that. We want to use generative AI in our lending processes. That's what we do. We give loans to people, and that has a lot of like paperwork around it, but also there's a lot of data that needs to be addressed. These are all, I would say, internal or client-oriented processes. And the fifth one, we are also like really taking it seriously. Software engineers. Software engineers globally, they like to have generative AI technologies. Generative AI is really able to write good quality code. We are just testing the usability and adoption of this technology by our software engineers. To put it in context, we have 65,000 employees globally. 19,000 of them are working in tech. Probably another 5 to 10,000 are doing coding one way or the other. They are not in tech, but like maybe they are doing modeling, maybe they are writing SQL queries. So just think about like the productivity increase that we can get if we enable this tool. In a nutshell, 5 areas.
So before we go into those 5 areas, maybe specifically a question for software engineering then, because I think for software engineering, it has been around for much longer, maybe than we as, or me as a normal human being, let's put it that way, is playing around with Gen AI. Is it a case of is Gen AI going to replace software engineers, or do you still need the experience and expertise that software engineers have to proofread the code and make sure that it's actually the code that you need that's compliant with the rules and regulations, is compliant with your IT environment, or do you think that will change?
It's close to letter, and also it's not that straightforward. So like yes, like if you ask a Copilot tool to write a piece of code, it's able to come up with a piece of code, like, and that is really accurate. A couple of things. First, like, engineers don't only write code. They think about how to write code, like what is the place of this code, like architecture, etc. They do a lot of activities around it. They can also like have productivity boost for these activities, but like coding is not their only activity. Second, it takes effort to review the code that is generated by AI, and it's not easier. You're gonna review somebody else's code, and in this case, AI's code. And we are looking at this plus usability elements. We don't see yet the feedback from our developers where they say hell yeah. There are always maybes. So the adoption, productivity increase, but also effectiveness increase. So how good the code is still needs to be proven. I think we are looking at a positive increase in terms of productivity and decrease in bugs, but that still needs to be proven. I gave this example quite a lot, but like if you're a small startup with 5 employees, maybe it's easy for you to say, "Hey, let's use it," because like why not?
Yeah.
But in a large organization, you really have to take things step by step and seriously.
The more complex the IT system,
think so,
basically,
yes.
yeah, the more complex you use the tool. So 5 areas: the customer contact centers, the KYC, the loans. You have the personalization,
software engineering.
software engineering. Thank you. Which one of these do you like the most? Which of the ones are you the most excited about?
I'm really excited about what we are doing in personalization. We have many new products. We are launching different products, like with different conditions, different like abilities, different price points, and we just sent the same message to everyone. It's just like we cannot really scale it because like we always have to go through an agency. We always have to get this verified. We are not really sure if the tone is right. So this takes a lot of iterations to come up with a single mail that is going to the clients, yet personalizing it for 10 different groups. I think the mail that you and I should get like for a certain product does not necessarily have to be the same. There are other companies in different industries that are able to do this personalization, and like they're really connected to their clients. We banks not that much at this point, so we really have to crack that problem. I think what we're trying there, we are just trying like few experiments, campaigns. Like we, of course, like have to inform our clients that they're part of this experiment. So like it takes some preparation. But I think eventually this is going to be the future of how we're doing communication with our clients.
I guess if you look at other companies, then the main challenge you have is that your target persona can be literally anyone. Unless you don't have money, then you don't need a bank account. But you might need a loan then. So anyone from any age group, from any background can be a customer of ING, whereas a lot of other companies, I guess, have a specific target persona, which makes it easier to write a personalized message, or at least there's less iteration to be done. Whereas it feels now Gen AI, you can probably take that back into your own hands, as well as make it super personalized for whoever.
It doesn't necessarily need to be about like demographics or money. So like those are not the things that we are looking for. We are just looking for, based on of some of your behavioral aspects, whether you prefer an easier product or a cheaper product. I'm just like making it
Don't
black and
forget
white.
to subscribe for
If you're
more industry
preferring
insights
an
and
easier
be part
product,
of the
maybe a certain
conversation by
product
leaving
with
a
certain
comment.
messaging is much more suitable and attractive for you. That's what we should tell you about. And like for the others, maybe like a bit more differently priced product. That's a bit the differentiation that we want to have. It's not that easy because of the factor that you said, but also we just cannot write that many emails by ourselves.
No, fair. Yeah.
And there Gen AI can play a role. And it's not only mails, it's landing pages, it's push notifications, it's all the messaging and communication that we do with our clients.
So in your example, what are some of the data points you look at to know whether or not I want a simple product or I want a more complicated product?
The conversation doesn't stop here, though. The full discussion is available exclusively as an audio episode on your favorite podcast streaming platforms. Thank you for watching this special episode of In Check with Fintech featuring Bahadir Yilmaz. We hope you're enjoying this insightful deep dive.